What's going on, guys? Welcome in. Welcome in. What's going on? It's Monday. What up? What up? What's going on, everyone? Let's see what's going on here. What's going on, Sids? Tesla puts. I couldn't blame you on that one. I definitely could not. I know that the only reason I didn't really pay attention to Tesla today, though, was because of the fact of that little morning pump with the whole news scenario, in which usually news pretty much changes the scenario. So that's why, I didn't want to get burned on that one. I usually pick my spots where I tend to trade Tesla. And so when I saw the headline pretty much about the fact of gas prices going up and Tesla pretty much trading up on that news early on this morning, I was like, let me stay a little sideline. I know that Sig got in on it. I think once it broke like 820, I had an alert go off as well. I pretty much just kind of ignored it. I just didn't want to get caught in that. I'll look at it tomorrow. We'll see what it does, if it gets continuation on the downtrend or not. But I pretty much didn't even look at the chart much today. I just had the alert go off and I just pretty much ignored it. But it is what it is. I'll get started here real quick. Pretty much, wrap the stuff up real quick. Today's market sell-off was just pretty much flabbergasting, and I'm sure you heard Dapper say that on live also. Mainly because of the fact that the close was very interesting. And my saying interesting is that the way the market closed today, I didn't see any kind of short covering towards the end of the day. I also didn't see much buyers try to step in terms of saying that there was any kind of sign of reversal. And that's what kind of had me a little bit more frustrated into the close. And that's why I ended up staying cash as well. And that's pretty much that simple fact. One, you like buyers and you like pretty much any kind of recovery into the close that gave me any sign of recovery going into tomorrow in terms of a relief rally. And that's basically what it was about that, and I decided to take cash. And as you see right now, SPY is already down about $1 after hours here as well. So I am glad that I pretty much stay cash. I'll wait to see what the market setup is going into tomorrow, but I'll leave it as that. Right now, you pretty much see the little falling wedge action, and I think Avery pretty much had more or less the same thing that he's looking at on a larger picture. And you see this massive little kill candle that we basically had off of this nice little rising wedge action that we got. We had the breakdown today was just literally that kill candle that gave us the entire flush. So my anticipation was that we would pretty much retrace some portion of this daily candle that we had, this massive daily candle, in which we get a relief bounce towards 427. But again, like I said, the market dropped today and that close did not give me any indication that we're going to get a relief rally tomorrow, in which we retest this key level of 427. And so because of that, I am leaning more so towards the downside here, in which I'm looking at. I do have a little bit of a support here around this low 417 mark. I want to say high 417, 417.80 is that level in which I'm looking at to see if we hold tomorrow. If we can hold that 417.80 level, then maybe we have a shot of making a strong relief rally towards that 427 mark. Otherwise, we lose that. Next support I'm sitting at is 415. And then taking basically reaching the lows from the end of February here, February 24th, and that'll be right around that 411. If we lose 411, now we're looking at gap fill here that pretty much dates back towards April of 2021. And so that pretty much sits between 403, 400. And I'll pretty much get to levels beyond below that. But I think the very next one immediately was 394 is what I was watching. All right. So those are pretty much the levels I'm watching. But big picture tomorrow is I do want to see if we can hold that 417.80 level. If we can hold that 417.80 level, I can see potentially a strong relief rally into tomorrow. In which case, that pretty much sets us up for a dump going into CPI data, which is basically our inflation data on Thursday as well. So that's where we're likely going to get spooked come Wednesday into that data. So I would expect tomorrow to be our day where we get a red to green action. Wednesday market gets spooked going right into the data on Thursday. That's pretty much how I'm playing it out in my mind right now. Does it have to play out that way? Obviously, no, I'm not a mind reader right now. That's what I'm just expecting. But playing it off level by level, 417.80 ish is that level which I'm looking for SPY to hold tomorrow morning. We get that to hold, then I'm looking for pretty much that bounce tomorrow, right? But getting into some of the plays that I was looking at, into some of the setups that just pretty much around across the board, they either have good patterns that pretty much stand out, or they're key levels that you want to hold. One that stood out to me was pretty much Clorox off of the monthly chart here. This one just stood out because of the fact that this trendline support actually dates back towards pretty much '09. So 2009 is where this pretty much dates back towards. We see that we wicked that trendline support here to be basically to start last month. And so I want to see if we're going to end up holding this 140 mark as the sell-off pretty much continues to intensify. So if the market continues to drop, I want to see if we end up holding this key level here, that around that 140 mark, in which that'll tell me a lot whether I want to go long on this one or if I want to end up potentially playing it short. So I'll watch for this one again. Key level here is that 140 mark. I do want to see that. I thought I actually had the zone highlighted in which I was looking at for potentially to hold on the breakdown, but it was right around this areas which I was looking at towards holding. If we get the breakdown below 140, then I'm watching here between 125 to 123 is the zone in which I'm watching for a potential short. Otherwise, we get the bounce, then we have upside pretty much towards about 162. 163 is what I'm looking at, in which that was prior level of what would say distribution and a prior level of the prior breakout here back from June of last year. All right. So I like this one in particular. Again, key spot is really why I'm paying attention to this one, because this is a make or break kind of spot here approaching that 140 mark, as it's likely going to wick again towards that trend line support. All right. So very keen one in terms of the spot in which it's at and the time frame that it's basically sitting at on the monthly here. All right. So that one I liked in particular. The other one that stood out to me was also Alta, and I think it was more so off of the 4 hour here. This was pretty much just a low key one that I also pretty much spotted on. I think it was more so daily. There we go. Uh, was it the weekly? Could have been the weekly. Yeah, it was the weekly. Weekly was Alta here. This one actually quite the weakness here today. It dropped about $16. But what caught my attention once I saw it coming, some flow coming through the tape here for the shorts stepping in. I like the little head and shoulders action that we have going on. As you see, pretty much the wicks, the bodies of the candles are pretty much in line here. So I do like this one in particular. If we pretty much get a breakdown here under this 345, I want to say 344, 345 mark, I'm potentially targeting towards this lower end of 319, 320, in which that was pretty much a very confident level here previously. If you date back towards February of last year, towards pretty much, I want to say towards the third week of July, that pretty much was where we consolidated up and down before the major breakout. So breakdown between below 345 here, we'll like to end up seeing this one towards that 320 level. Tatum, what's going on? Tatum, what are you looking at, by the way? I know you're pretty much just what? Looking at FLR? Is that what you're looking at only? I don't know. You could drop a name if you're looking at. But as I continue to go on, so that was Alto with the head and shoulders under 345. I'll keep it on watch tomorrow. If the market wants to continue selling off, I saw that one come through the tape, so caught my attention with that nice little head and shoulders action and being on the weekly. So that's another one that's on a larger time frame. Other one that caught my attention was also Facebook. We saw how much Facebook literally just got. It literally felt like it got raped today. That's basically how Facebook was looking at today. But what caught my attention on a more so on a bigger scale here is that you see the beautiful little ascending, broadening wedge type formation, in which it looks like we're basically attempting of breaking down on support here. And so I'm gonna watch to see this one if we can hold support here towards this 179 mark, if not towards 173. And then I would likely expect some type of pennant action to form here. So I would look to see, depending upon the market conditions, either I'm gonna look to pick up some short-term position here at 180 for maybe a scalp overnight position, depending at that 179, 180 mark. Otherwise, if we can't hold 179 at the bare minimum, then we're coming down towards 173, and that'll be the spot where I look to potentially get my scalp or my swing trade on this one. So reason why I ended up finding this zone is that because if you look previously, you see back from July of 2018 that actually that little area of support pretty much acted as distribution before you had the massive sell-off. And then you also had a confident level of potential support here dating back towards 2019, in which that was between May and September of 2019 before you had a nice breakout. So I'm looking for that level to hold yet again between that zone of 173 up towards 179, and that'll be the spot where I look to potentially buy Facebook. I know that the shorts pretty much they literally hammered Facebook. I even saw it into the close, and that's why I say going into the close today of the market, I did not see any kind of indication of the fact that we're gonna see a reversal. That's why we heard Dapper was pretty much flabbergasted. I did not see any indication about buyers stepping into the tape. I didn't see any kind of short covering into the close. So I pretty much stayed cash tonight, and I think that was pretty much the best thing I could have done for myself because I would rather sleep easy tonight. And there's just nothing that gave me any kind of confidence or indication that I really wanted to be in this nosedive that we're in right now because I can easily wake up down 60% in any given call that I tried to buy up. All right, and I'm definitely not trying to chase after what about a 12, 13 point drop on SPY here today. All right, so again, that's pretty much the zone of what I was looking at, 173 to 179. That's potentially the two key levels in which I'm looking at. We hold 179. I'll get into calls there. Otherwise, 173 will be the spot where I look to also potentially be the spot where I look to scale in as well. And then you see the little blue lines that I'm looking at. Potentially, we get a little bit of a retest in the formation of getting a little bear pennant action. And that we'll see if that sets up to get another leg down or if that'll be the spot where we end up getting a reversal potentially with the market getting some sort of relief rally, maybe consecutive days. All right. So that's another one. Other one that caught my attention was FedEx. I know FedEx was another one that was just bleeding out today. And those names pretty much across the board is what caught my attention. Unusual names that don't usually typically move this much. And they literally just sold off hard. FedEx was one of them. And as you see, this is pretty much just a clear head and shoulders action. You see, I actually have support coming down towards about 189. So give or take, that's about another $10 move to the downside. I actually do like that. We caught up. What was Tatum saying? I haven't looked at anything for CLNE. Actually, I'll take a look at it. I'll see what it looks like. Facebook does look like a hot dog. I mean, I think there's just going to be a potential setup to get a nice bounce off of it, just because of the fact that it's going to be heavily oversold. And I think that's one name that's pretty much closer to bottoming out than a lot of the other names in the queues. So that's pretty much why I say that. But yeah, FedEx actually looks pretty nice in terms of maybe a short-term support level. We get down towards this 189. I can see a retest towards that neckline if I pretty much extend that neckline. You can see that where you're likely going to end up getting your nice little continuation of the bounce once you hit that 189 level. And that'll be a nice little short-term play as well. So you'll basically see something a little bit along the lines of this, basically. So you tap 189 and you'll likely get the bounce, retest the neckline, and then we'll see if we get a continuation back to the downside depending upon market volatility. All right. So 189 here, we get that short tomorrow, hopefully, I would assume. And then 189, we basically buy it up and we take it right back towards retesting the neckline of that 198, 199 mark. And then that'll be the point where you take your profits. And we wait for the determination factor whether we get pretty much a move right back over the neckline or if we get a dump fest again. And that'll likely take us back down towards my next level of 168. That was prior resistance or support, basically dating back as far back from March 2019. All right. So that's another one that caught my attention. The other one was Broadcom, and I think me and Tatum actually talked about this one during market. Pretty much, we saw unusual calls come through on this one, and that's why it caught my attention. When I started looking at the chart, it looked pretty much set like a nice little wedge action here. You see a defined little trendline resistance, beautiful trendline support, some wicks down below. But I'm looking to see if we get this little bounce here, and that's what I was expecting into the close. Didn't get it. But 577 half, which pretty much aligns with the unusual calls that we got off of the floor alerts today. I'm gonna look to see if we get that bounce tomorrow up towards that 577 half. Otherwise, my pretty much my downside target here is pretty darn high, in which it's pretty far out. I mean, 541 is what I'm looking at, in which that was prior support resistance level in which we had back from the beginning of the year. So that's what I'm going to be looking at in a potential short in terms of this one. We get a nice little relief rally, a nice little bounce. I'm going to look to short Broadcom here around that 577 level, hopefully if I get that bounce. Otherwise, If we don't get the bounce, you're looking for the breakdown here under 565. That'll be the spot where you want to start to look to get into puts on Broadcom, and you could take that one down. All right, but I am looking at pretty much a little bit of a farther scenario, maybe about 2 weeks out. I get some puts on this one, 2 to 3 weeks out, and that'll be a beautiful one. I short down towards that 541 level, 542. All right, so that's a beautiful one. Another one that caught my attention, and this is one I was asking about in terms of what name it was. Once I saw the name, though, it pretty much just caught my attention. It was just a beautiful little bull pennant, little wedge action, if you want to say as well, in which your upside and your downside pretty much well defined on this one. And this is just a beautiful little setup. You have that beautiful gap fill here below 96. You're pretty much looking at that gap fill to complete here at 95. So 95, 96, about a $2 gap fill. Otherwise, your upside target is what I'm looking at is towards 108, in which we get continuation here off of this one. So I like NTR quite a bit. I believe we had an alert. I forgot exactly what it was. If I'm not mistaken, I think it was calls. So this is just a beautiful setup. I like it. Beautiful wedge, basically a directional play. So you look to see where it's pretty much going to end up breaking out above or under. We get this under 98, you short it right down to 95. You get the breakout basically over this level of 100, 140. Then you pretty much play that right up towards 108. And that's a beautiful little directional play there. All right. And then the last setup, I pretty much that caught my attention because primarily because of the tape, I want to say. This one definitely caught my attention was PANW. And reason why is because you have a beautiful little, I think the 4 hour looks better. Yeah, 4 hour looks better. You basically see this starting to pretty much roll over. We had that nice little squeeze action off of their earnings. Pretty much peaked here around that close enough to $600 mark. We're looking now for the retest of this breakout. So once we get this, probably want to say about $14, $15 move to the downside here. We picked this up right around 413. Would be that level in which I would look at. Just depends how quickly this accelerates to the downside. 513 will be the spot where I potentially look to go long on this one, and we should get a nice little reversal right back to the upside to get a retracement off of this downside action. All right. So 513, 512 will be that level in which I would potentially tell you to look at to go long on it. Otherwise, if we get continued sell off tomorrow, you stay short on this and you write it right down to that 12, 512, 513 mark, and that'll be a beautiful short. All right. Yeah, it is. It is related to that. So that's why I mean they had the earnings since it was a beautiful breakout that they had. I know that Dapper was talking about it since it was short squeezing. I don't think he played it during the short squeeze rally though, off of the earnings. But that was a hell of a move. I do like it if it retraces back down to the downtrend break here, and that'll be the spot where I want to see it hold around that 512, like I said, and that'll just be a beautiful move right back to the upside here. Even if we get about a 0.25% retracement, that'll be a beautiful bounce. Otherwise, I would continue to maybe, if we get a relief rally tomorrow, look to basically get a nice short off of it, go about a week or two out of it just to be on the safe side, and you take that right back down. All right. So pretty much well-defined setups that I have, as you see, playing it level by level. In terms of that, I'm not taking anything crazy, and especially looking at larger time frames. I'm not trying to go down to the lower time frames, especially during these market volatility in which the price action is very wide right now. I think our daily range has been very extended right now. So I think looking at the smaller time frames are definitely not going to be working in this environment. Hopefully you guys have been pretty much disciplined. I know that this market has not been what a lot of you have expected, especially some of you that are newer traders. So the biggest thing I could say is just stay patient. If you do not know how to play the downside, stay sidelined. Just wait for your move, pretty much, is what I would tell you. That's pretty much the biggest thing right now. I don't even think I traded as much today. I probably took about 2 trades today. The rest of the time, I was pretty much charting and looking at most of these setups that I pretty much displayed right now. It was just looking at the alerts that were coming out, looking at tape, and just looking at larger time frames in which I'm going to be looking to take advantage of those key levels, whether it's to the upside or the downside here within the coming days. All right. And that's why I pretty much wanted to stress, especially if you're new to this environment, I don't want anyone losing money like that, right? And that's why you pretty much also see us on live right now. We're not necessarily making call outs right now, for that matter, as much as we would previously, because these moves are not. Once you have that, I think that first hour this morning, if you were not in puts in the first hour of the market close, it was pretty much a lot more harder to want to chase these moves to the downside, because obviously no one woke up expecting SPY to drop about 12 points and with these moves to be exaggerated so much to the downside. I think I looked about 5 tickers and they were all down about $100 by lunchtime. If you looked at Amazon, I think there was Booking, there was Chipotle, names that were down literally about $100 literally just by lunchtime. And that's why I didn't want anyone pretty much chasing in terms of just saying names. I think this, for that matter, that's why Avery pretty much also walked away. When you pretty much felt like you missed the move, don't try to chase the move. All right. And especially those of you that are pretty much new to this situation, that's why I say that. All right. So hopefully that pretty much helps you, give you the mindset. If you basically got your ass kicked today, it was a learning lesson. But don't mean it doesn't mean that you have to go jump yourself into a random position tomorrow trying to chase something and getting it all back. Just wait for the setup and wait for your time pretty much when you know that you have a lot more conviction than the market is giving you right now. All right. So hopefully those words of wisdom kind of help across the board there. But other than that, that's pretty much what I was looking at. I am gonna look at one ticker that someone did mention earlier, and I'll call it a wrap real quick. Someone did mention FCX. I'll take a quick peek at it, and then we'll call it pretty much a day here. This is pretty much a nice little one. It looks like it had a nice little inverted head and shoulders type action. You had pretty much the steep little left shoulder. The right one pretty much formed into like a little beautiful wedge action. So if I were to tell you pretty much where I would look to get a nice little retest action, it would be right here, in which I see is a defined breakout point, in which you could see this potentially retrace down towards 43, and that'll be the spot. 43.70ish will be the spot where I tell you you retrace this breakout. That'll be where you retest the breakout, and then you get the continuation back towards the upside. All right. Otherwise, the other thing that I'll be looking at is this trendline support as well. You'd be looking at this trendline support. Look to see if you end up holding right here, right around this low 46 mark. If you hold that low 46 mark, then we can see the continuation of the uptrend. Otherwise, you lose that low 46 mark, then yes, you are coming back to get a full retest of the breakout. All right. So that's basically what I will tell you. And then obviously you do see the gap here that you have just over 49.37, about a few cents gap right there that you could potentially take advantage of towards the upside. All right. So not a bad one here. It's just that obviously with energy you do have to time your positions. We see how pretty much how parabolic energy has been. It's just that obviously you do not want to chase it per se. Wait for those key levels to come in, as the basically your trendline support would be here on that low 46, like I said, or you wait for the full retest of the breakout towards that 43 mark, and that'll be where you go long. All right. So hopefully that pretty much gives you a better insight in which I would be looking at, and then you'll also be targeting the gap fill towards the upside there. All right. And then also the highs that you previously just made here, right around 50 half. All right. But again, that pretty much wraps up what I was looking at. Let's just hope we have some better price action with the market tomorrow. That's something that gives some better action in terms of getting some call outs and getting some better directional plays. Otherwise, today again, if you didn't get into puts earlier this morning, it just felt like you were chasing for most of the time. And that was pretty much the hard part, especially for those of you that are new. But that'll wrap it up for me today, guys. Hopefully that kind of helps you out, give you a little bit of a better mindset of what I was particularly looking at. But I will see you guys tomorrow morning. That'll pretty much call it a wrap. But